Hello and welcome to Larkin Design. I'm Theresa, and so today I'm so excited to share with you the process video for how I created my December album for 2015. And so I've just got the album here and a couple of things to get started with, and I'm just gonna gesso this cover. This is Simple Stories Snap Album in Chevron Teal, and it's 6x8. And I'm going to start by masking off the binder clip portion of it. And I'm just using Scotch 3M green masking tape to just cover all of it. I'm sort of laying it underneath that binder mechanism and then pulling it up and around and tearing some of the edges and wrapping it around that binder clip and pretty much just covering up anything that I don't want white. I will tell you, I have painted these binder clip mechanisms and it doesn't really work. It just seems to get in the way of turning the pages and stuff. So this one on this album, I'm going to leave it silver, and I'm just taking the scissors and sort of making sure that all the ends of those tape is pushed all the way under there so we can get as much white as possible. And then we're just going to take this gesso and pour out a bunch of it, and then start painting. And this is just pretty easy. I know I painted most of the album sitting on its end like that, but I'm just showing you here just how I'm going over. And I will tell you that this burlap really absorbed a lot of this gesso, so I put it on heavy. And my goal was not to have a complete opaque coat of gesso on the whole thing. I wanted some of the chevron to show through, but I also wanted a white so that it would contrast with what I'm going to do to embellish the album. So I'm just doing a full coat, a heavy coat, still able to see through some of the chevron. And if you've never tried gesso on any of your projects, I highly encourage you will fall in love with it. It is great for prepping your surface, for toning down. You know, that teal chevron is kind of bold, and so the gesso just sort of tones it down a little bit and makes it a little more elegant, I think. And so I'm just doing the inside of it now. The inside is just sort of like brown paper bag, and so it takes the gesso a lot better on the inside. I didn't use as much, and I know it's kind of hard to see because I painted it sort of vertically just so that it was easier to get into. And here I am just sort of working around that binder clip. And this is where good masking tape comes in handy. So the first coat is almost done, and then I went back, and I didn't video, but I went back and I sort of did a half coat over a part of the front cover, so that it was opaque on a part of it, and you can still see that chevron sort of around the edges. Alright, so now I'm going to embellish the front of the album, and I wanted to use this screen print from Allie Edwards' main kit for her December Daily 2015. And so I'm just kind of showing you how it peels back from the backing and sort of how I'm going to lay that out on the cover, and then I'm going to use the star and the little banner. I'm also using, you'll see that gray trowel, I guess is what it's called. I just got that at Lowe's Hardware. There was 3 of them in a pack for probably like $4. But you can use a credit card, an old credit card or an old gift card to swipe your paint across. And so I'm just laying this screen print across the cover and masking it off. and sort of deciding which of the stars that I want to show through. And so I'm going to tell you a little something about this screen printing on this burlap cover, that these stars are not going to come through perfect. And so obviously if you're screen printing on paper, your stars will come out a lot better. But that was sort of the effect that I was going for. I didn't want perfect stars. I wanted them to look like they were part of the gesso background. So, and you can see where I sort of went over it twice with the paint. If you're doing this on paper, you shouldn't have to go over it twice. Once will be fine. And so I peeled back, and that's what I got from using it on the burlap. And I really liked that. I wanted it to look like a sort of snowy sky. And so here I'm just placing the next set of stars, and then I realized that the first stars really aren't quite dry yet. So I'm going to blast that with a little bit of air and make sure that that's dry. The paint dries pretty quickly. So there, that's done. And now we'll put the second set. And again, I'm just sort of visualizing where they need to go in relationship to the wood star. And then I'll spread the paint again. There we go. And those screen prints are really awesome to use. I like them a lot better than stencils. They tend to hold the paint better and not bleed underneath. So I think for getting those stars on that burlap, that was exactly what I needed. So I'm just going to blast that a little bit and get those dry. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, and that's where the star is going to go. And I'm pretty happy with that. I also decided I'm going to put a star on the spine, just underneath the bracket. That turns out not to be the bracket that I used, but that's to show where the bracket was going in relationship to the star. And I'm going to tell you that I did not include my process for taking that bracket off and putting that bracket back on the album. Maybe one day when I get better at it, I will put that in a video and show you how I remove my brackets. I will tell you that it was, in the end, it was pretty easy once we found the right rivets to just reattach it. And you can paint over those brackets, but I was worried that I wouldn't be able to put my little label back in it if I painted it shut. So here I am just going back over this one star on the spine and making sure it didn't quite come out the way I wanted it. But that's alright, and I'm just cleaning off that screen print. I just cleaned it with facial wipes, and it came off really easily. So I'm just blasting that with a little bit of heat, and it's almost good to go. Alright, move those things out of the way, and then I'm going to attach the wooden star. And I just used my glue gun for the wooden star. Now I'm going to tell you that the glue gun worked great for attaching the star. It did not work for attaching the rubber strip. I attached it here and I thought the heat would bond with that rubber, but it didn't, so I ended up going back with the E6000 glue. But there it is. It's ready. And now I'm going to just show you what I'm doing on the inside, front and back covers. I'm using this paper by October Afternoon. It's from the Under the Tree collection, and yes, it is a bit bold on the inside, and so I'm going to Mod Podge those to the inside cover and then gesso over it. So this is my example on how not to Mod Podge papers to a surface. I coated everything with Mod Podge on the back side, and then I forgot that you have to sort of start at one side and go across and out. So this is how not to Mod Podge paper. I ended up with a big giant bubble, and that's okay. You know, nothing on this album is perfect by any means, and that's sort of what I like about it. There are definitely some imperfections to this technique, and sometimes when you Mod Podge, you just come out with a bubble. And I didn't show it on camera, but I ended up working that bubble out, and just in the end you can see in the actual album where the imperfection is, and that's okay. Here I am, I'm just realizing this big giant bubble, and I'm trying to work it out, and once it's there, it's just kind of there. So I'm just going to blast it a little bit. That's what not to do. There we go. Alright, and so here's the back side. And this is how to Mod Podge paper to a surface. Get a full coat of Mod Podge on the back of your paper, and then start at one end. Adhere it down, and then run your hands across and out. There. That's so much better. And then make sure that all your ends are sealed. These corners, you know, they kind of didn't want to stick because they were going to burlap. But we got it. I got it worked out. And so then I just cover the whole thing with Mod Podge over top and blast it with air. And sort of making sure that there aren't any last minute little bubbles and stuff. And this back cover turned out pretty well. Alright. And it's dry. And so now we're going to put that away, and then I'm going to grab the gesso again and just pour out what I need, and then cover this pattern paper with the gesso. And this time I used a foam brush, but I think I ended up going back with a regular brush just to get the texture. And I'm just going all the way over the whole patterned paper, but some of the areas are just thinner than others, just to get the look that I'm going for. And again, it was just sort of a snowy sky, cold December day that makes you want to grab a cup of coffee and curl up with a blanket. Alright, and so that's pretty much how I did my album cover. And I'm so glad that you watched today. Thank you for stopping in. Be sure and check out my blog at larkindesign.squarespace.com and subscribe, and then we'll follow along in the month of December to see how we fill this up. Thanks again. Bye-bye.